Hello and welcome to the first program of AS Business Studies revision program. My name is Yasas and I am from Center for Higher Secondary Education, CHSE. Today we are going to start with this first session where we are going to talk about a particular topic which we feel that most of the students have some concerns, which is about market positioning. So what we are going to do today is to talk about the definition, so you have an understanding about what market positioning is all about, and then why market positioning is important for an organization, and then another important concept related to market positioning called market mapping, and finally the benefits and drawbacks of conducting a market map. Okay, so let's start with the most important thing, definitions. As you know that Edexcel gives 2 marks for knowledge in a particular topic where you need to provide a proper definition. Therefore, let's start with a proper definition of what market positioning is all about. So, as you can see, what we mean by market positioning is how products or brands are seen in relation to their competition by the consumers, which means we are talking about a product being seen by the customer in their mind in comparison to another product. And as you have been given the textbook by Edexcel, I have taken another definition right from your textbook which talks about another definition of what market positioning is all about. And like you can see here from these fonts which I have made red, it all talks about the same thing. Now if you look at the definition given here, the view consumers have about the quality, value for money and image for the product in relation to those of competitors. So you can see in general what we mean by a market positioning is, in simple terms, we are trying to create a particular perception or a particular picture in the consumer's mind about the product. Now let me give you a simple example. Now if I write the product Toyota, what sort of a picture you get into your mind? And if I write BMW, those who know about the automobile industry, do you get the same picture into your mind when I say Toyota and BMW? Obviously not. Because when you say Toyota, the perception that the people have or the picture that people have in their mind is an ordinary car. But when you talk about a car like BMW, it's obviously a different picture that you get into your mind, which is a luxury car, a high performance car, and that is exactly what we mean by creating a picture in the consumer's mind, which is because of market positioning. Okay, right. So moving on, the most important next question, why market positioning is important? What is the reason why businesses are so concerned about positioning their product in a particular way in the minds of the consumer? The simple answer is to achieve this, product differentiation. Now you know when you go into a market or when you think about an industry, there are so many different products available who are competing with each other. So if I want my product to be seen different from the rivals, what I should do? I should obviously try and position my product differently from the rivals, and that is what exactly we mean by market positioning. Now as you could see in this explanation, in the last point you can see that how companies could compete in a competitive market is either you can follow a competitor or you could create a different image for the product. And this is what exactly we are talking about when it comes to market positioning, how we are going to create that different picture in the consumer's mind so that we could make our product to be seen distinctive or different from the rivals. Okay, so moving on, how we could do this? What are the different approaches a business could make their product to be seen different from the rivals? Let's see some of the things that the businesses do. First one, they can talk about the benefits that they offer by the product. It could be a superior performance, it could be a low price, value for money. There could be different things that a company can do in order to show their product's benefit, which is differentiated from the rivals as a way of positioning. Secondly, a USP, a unique selling point. Now, this is a particular topic that you have studied in your AS specification, the concept of a unique selling point. Something distinctive a company could create, or they could tell the customers that we have this which is making the product different from the rivals. Say for example, Apple always boasts about their iOS, the operating system, which is superior in terms of virus attacks and threats. So, a typical example of a unique selling point, how a company could try and differentiate themselves from the rivals. Third one, by talking about a particular characteristic or a particular quality of a product. Now, we all know, for example, if you talk about Toyota cars from Japan, which are considered to be of high quality at a low price thanks to their lean management systems. So, therefore, this is another way how we could do the product differentiation in terms of highlighting a characteristic or a particular quality of a product. And then the origin of the product. Now, what do we mean by origin of the product? Sometimes some companies talk about the particular origination of a product related to a country. Now, say for example, Swiss chocolate. Now, everyone who knows about the chocolate industry, and if we say that this product is made in Switzerland, for example, this is perceived, or that particular product is perceived to be of a better quality because Switzerland is considered to be a country that makes good chocolate. So, likewise, the country of origin and even Japanese cars, same example, or German products, highly engineered products. So, these are the examples how the country of origin or the origin of the product can also be used as a method of differentiating from the rival. So, these are all the examples or the methods how a company could try and differentiate the product by positioning it differently from the consumer, differently from the competitor products in the consumer's mind. These are some of the examples that I have taken to show you how companies use advertising based on the previous methods that I have explained you in order to differentiate the products. Now, this is about a bank, how they try to differentiate themselves through the service that they provide. And this is another example that shows a famous BMW car, where the company tries to position BMW as a high performance luxury car in the minds of the customers using the engineering superiority as well as the performance that the car brings with the luxury, which is another example of how the product differentiation has been highlighted in order to position BMW in the minds of the customers according to those attributes which to differentiate from the other cars. So, moving on, like I said at the beginning, the moment we talk about market positioning, there is another important concept that we need to understand which goes along with the market positioning, which is market mapping. Now, before I give you a definition of market mapping, what is this market mapping all about? Now, like I said at the beginning, when we talk about why companies need to differentiate the products from the rivals, we said that in a competitive market, there could be so many different rival products which provide the same kind of product offering. So, if a new business, for example, wants to position their product in the consumer's mind, what is the first thing that they should do? The first thing that they need to look at is what is the current positioning of the existing products in the minds of the customers. Because if we do not understand that part, and if the new business goes and tries to position in a particular way that might coincide with an existing product, the whole objective of product differentiation wouldn't be achieved. Therefore, companies, before going for the positioning, should identify how the existing products are being put into the consumer's mind, or how the consumers perceive the existing products in their mind, and based on that we could identify any possible gaps in the consumer's mind so that we could fill that particular gap with the new product we are trying to position in the market. So that is the reason why businesses, before they go for any sort of a positioning strategy, need to identify how the existing rival products are being perceived by the customers in the market. So that is the link between the concept of market positioning and why we need to conduct a market mapping alongside. So once again, let's go to the definitions first. Market mapping is a process that plots products or brands on a map, identify where it fits into a market against key customer requirements and competitor products. So this is one of the definitions that you can write if there is a question on market mapping. And like I said, since you have been given the textbook, it is important for you to refer to the textbook. Hence, I have put another definition which is from your Edexcel textbook. So remember, whenever you write definitions in your Edexcel exams, whether it's in AS or in A2, always try to write definitions from an accepted textbook, which is very important for you to write definitions not by taking from internet or from another not so reliable source, but from the textbook which has been given to you. It's quite important for you to focus on knowing the definitions from the textbook. So I have taken the definition from the Edexcel textbook, a two-dimensional diagram that shows two of the qualities or characteristics of a brand and those of rival brands in the market. Now you can see what I have highlighted from the red color. It's two-dimensional diagram, we will see in a while, and it shows qualities or characteristics. There are different factors that we can use in order to create this two-dimensional diagram, which I'll show you later on. And also what we try to do is to show the two of the qualities or characteristics of a brand and those of rival brands in the market. So like I said, it's very essential for a business to know where the existing rival products are in the consumer's mind before they think about how they are going to position their product in the consumer's mind, so that they would be able to achieve the product differentiation which I have explained earlier. Right. So what are the different dimensions that we can use in order to plot a market map? So like we said, it's a two-dimensional diagram. So what are the different variables or the examples of the dimensions that we can use? These are some of the examples. You could go with price, high price and low price as one dimension. You can go with quality as another dimension. You could go as volumes in terms of the sales volumes, or you could go whether it's a luxury or necessary. Likewise, there are different aspects how you could apply the dimensions when we develop a market map. And like I said, keep in mind the objective of a market map is to see how the rival products, the existing products in the market, are already being perceived by the consumers. So let's look at a practical example of a market map. Now here I have taken automobile industry, which is quite well known for most of you, and here you can see the two dimensions. One dimension is the usage, family versus sporty cars, and the other one is based on luxury and economy. So based on these two variables, this is an example of a market map where it shows how consumers perceive different car products or car brands in their mind. So you can see there are certain cars here like Lexus and BMW and Bentley, which are quite luxury family cars, and of course for those who are thrill seekers, the people who like high speed cars where you want to accelerate from 0 to 120 miles per hour within 4 to 5 seconds. So those who like that sort of cars, yes, you have luxury cars like Porsche or Audi. And then on this side you have somewhat economy but sporty cars like Mini Cooper, for example. If you have watched Italian Job movie, you know what Mini Cooper is. And then Honda Civic, Volkswagen Golf, Peugeot, Seat. So these are some of the examples. And here finally you can see another set of cars which are family and economy, like Toyota. Like we said, of course we know how Toyota is perceived as a economy good car for families, and also the Vauxhall as well as Volvo. But as you can see here in this particular part, there is a gap in the market where there is not much of a economy and family cars compared to this and this part, which is a typical example how we can identify a potential gap in the consumer's mind based on how they perceive the existing rival products in the market. And I have another example here in terms of a food item with low calories and high calories as one dimension, price as another dimension, and like you can see here, there are different products being perceived by customers in this market map in this manner. And here you can see there is a huge gap because all these products are concentrated on these three parts of the dimension or the market map, which has a huge gap here in this part, which could be a very good opportunity for the business or for an incoming business to consider as a positioning in the consumer's mind. Okay, right. So we are coming to the last part of the topic. What are the benefits and drawbacks of market mapping, or why companies do it? What are the good things about market mapping and what are the bad things? Okay, so these are some of the plus points or some of the good things, advantages of conducting a market map. Like we said, obviously the most important advantage for the business of conducting a market map is to identify a particular gap in the market. So this gap would be useful for the incoming or for the new company in order to position their product without having any sort of a duplication with the existing products in the market. And secondly, it would help to position the product successfully, because now that we have identified a particular gap in the market from the perception of the customers, we can then help, or we can use that particular gap in order to successfully position a business compared to the rivals, which is the second advantage you can write. And then we have the third advantage. It identifies where the business is in relation to the competitor products, and if they want to reposition, suppose they want to have a different perception to be created because of some reasons or because of some market changes, it also is an advantage. By conducting a market map, a business could identify where their product is right now compared to the competitors' products in the consumer's mind, and whether there is a gap the business could successfully utilize in order to reposition their product. And then we will move on to the drawbacks. One of the first and an obvious drawback that we can talk about is this one. Now, even though we identify a gap in the consumer's mind in the market, that does not necessarily mean there is a demand. Let me show you an example. Let's say we draw a market map based on price and quality. So you have, let's say, high price here, and then you have low price here, and then you have low quality as the second dimension, and high quality. Right. So if this is an example of a market map, I am sure if you do a practical example of applying any particular product into this kind of a market map which talks about price and quality, there would be a huge gap here. Why? Why there is a gap? Any product, you think about any product, if you apply a market map based on these two dimensions, price and quality, there would be a huge gap in this place. High price, low quality. Why? Why there would be a gap in that particular position? Because no consumer in a market who is thinking rationally would be willing to pay a high price for a low quality product. therefore, there would be for any product, there would be a huge gap in the consumer's mind in this kind of a position, which does not necessarily mean there is a real demand, because no one would be willing to buy a low quality products by paying a high price. So, that is what this particular drawback says. And the second one is, it is likely to be subjective, so that the conclusions may be inaccurate. Now, what does that mean? Now, I showed you earlier different set of dimensions that we use in order to do a market map. So, if we develop 3 different market maps for the same product using 3 different set of dimensions, you will not get the same kind of a map, because the dimensions we are using will vary based on how the consumers perceive the product in their mind. Therefore, even if we do 3 different market maps for the same product by using 3 different set of dimensions, you will not get the same kind of a gap. So, that is why he says that it be subjected, therefore, conclusions may be inaccurate, and also there is another dimension to this one. It is all about how we perceive, and different consumers have different perceptions. Therefore, you cannot generalize these kind of concepts, because these are highly psychological things. And then there is another drawback that we could talk about. It needs additional information, because we have to substantiate the details or the data that we get in order to position the product. In order to do a proper market mapping, we need to gather data. Gathering data means we need to collect market data from market research or through market research sources, and particularly for a new business, conducting market research would be expensive. So, this might not be a point for an established bigger business, keep that in mind. Some points might not be applicable in all the cases, because you know that as and when you write answers, you got to write in the context to the case study. So, if the case study highlights that this is a new business or a small startup business, obviously this could be one of the drawbacks, because for a new business, collecting this kind of data would be kind of costly. Therefore, they might not be able to conduct a proper market research, so that they will not be able to come up with a proper market mapping, since they might not have proper data. Okay. So, basically that is about market positioning. So, what we discussed today here with this in this session was about the definition and the concept of market positioning, what is meant by market positioning, why market positioning is important for a business, where we talked about the important concept of product differentiation, and then we looked at what are the different methods how a company could try and differentiate the products from the rivals, and then we talk about another associated concept of market positioning called market mapping, where we use to find the gaps in the consumer's mind in order to position the product successfully. So, speaking of market mapping, we talk about what are the different dimensions, and we looked at some of the examples, and lastly we talked about what are the benefits and drawbacks of conducting a market mapping. So, that is it for today. So, please send us your questions if you have any. We would be happy to answer your questions in our discussion or the panel discussion, which is going to be held later. Thank you very much.